Hello, everybody. My name is Chad Wilson. I wanted to start off my first video here on my YouTube with probably one of the most important processes being a realtor, and it is the home buying process. So, welcome to the first video here on my YouTube channel, Living in the Ohio Valley. So, the home buying process is a multi-step process, and the first part, what I'm going to cover, broken into different sections, will be finding your real estate agent, getting a pre-approval for a mortgage, finding your home, making an offer, getting inspections and appraisals, negotiating repairs, and last but not least, closing, where you're taking home the keys to your brand new home. So the first step in the home buying process, find you a good real estate agent. Myself personally, I'm licensed in West Virginia and Ohio. I live currently in the Shadyside, Ohio area, born and raised in West Virginia. But, living on this side over here, licensed in both states, so able to accommodate all of the buyers up and down the Ohio Valley. This is an extremely important step for you whenever you start the process because you really need to find an agent that's going to go to bat for you, that's going to put your priorities above their own, that's going to put in all of the work to find you the right home and find you your forever home. That's what I'm going to do for you as your agent, and that's what you should expect, nothing less from your agent. They're going to be the ones finding properties for you, sending them to you, discussing them with you the entire home buying process. This is a very important step because you know what? This is what's going to get you from point A to point B and all the way to C until you get those keys in your house. So the next step is, getting your pre-approval for a mortgage. That is one of the most important steps. And the reason it's really important is because it's going to set you up. You might get a no first if you're, just starting the process, but they're going to guide you on how to go from a no to now. And they're going to be able to walk you through what needs to happen, whether or not it be save some more money for a down payment or more cash reserves or whatever, bump your credit up in some areas. They're going to be able to help you through that process. They want to see you purchase a home. So, below you've got some more videos of mine. They're going to walk you through that, and they're going to walk you through with some other lender friends of mine that I've worked with in the past that are going to be able to answer some questions and really talk through these loans. Myself, I'm not a loan officer, but they're going to be able to walk you through that entire process. So what type of loan is right for me is probably the first question you should ask. So there are multiple different types of loans, whether or not that be an FHA, USDA, conventional loan, VA loan, whether or not you're going to new construction loan. There's lots of different options out there. And if you watch the videos below, I've met up with lenders and they're going to be able to walk you through those processes. There's also a lot of loans that, you can see on the videos. There's other ones that are going to be able to offer, down payment assistance or possibly, grants in certain states and areas. So make sure you take some time to watch those videos as well too. And those lenders' contact information is located there too, so you can reach out to them. But why is that, pre-approval letter so important? Well, the first part is it speeds up the process. So, if you walk into a home and you think this is the one, this is it, we've got to go back and we've got to get you pre-approved before we can submit that offer. You could miss out on your dream home. So it's step of, speeding up the process and getting you from point A to point B to point C to home, keys in your pocket a little bit quicker. It also lets you, allows you to look for homes that fit your budget. And that's extremely important. Sometimes people, want to look at $300,000 houses, but they only have a $100,000 budget. Or, their boxes that they're looking at $100,000 houses don't check all of their boxes for them. So maybe we need to go up a little bit, but it keeps you in range. But one very important part about that is, realizing that, I can afford a home at this price, but is it going to make me mortgage broke? And that's something you really need to take into consideration. So that pre-approval process, you're going to be able to talk with your lenders and get an idea of where your mortgage payment would fall. So, while I'd love to sell you your dream home, but if that means you're eating ramen noodles for the rest of your life, that might not be the right thing for you. So let's find something that fits your budget. It also stops you from looking at the wrong houses. So sometimes, whether or not you have an FHA or VA or, USDA loan, there are some requirements to those where some houses might not fit, whether or not it be simple things like paint chipping, the conditions of some of the homes, some things that need to be repaired inside of it. As your realtor, I'm going to be able to walk you through and say, hey, some of these things might not fit, as well as some sellers don't want to deal with FHA, USDA, or possibly VA loans because there's some more difficulties or hoops to jump through for them. Doesn't make it a bad type of loan to get, but it also, they don't want to deal with that process, or they know their home's not going to pass it. They've been through the process. So It also lets me as your realtor know that, hey, we might need to back this up a little bit and look at a different type of home because I could have been in that house before, I could have seen it before. The next step is, the part is where it makes your offer stronger. So, when I'm submitting your offer, I'm not going to submit your offer without that pre-approval letter. I want the sellers and the other listing agent to know that your offer is strong. We mean business. We're out here, we're going to buy a home, and this is what we've got. We're ready to go, we're ready to buy. And that's very, very important. And the last part here is that some sellers will only allow people that are pre-approved to view their home. So if you think about it from a seller's perspective, do they want a lot of people going in their window shopping their house? If it's going to be a hot listing, why are they don't want to waste their time with someone that's not pre-approved when they can ask for a buyer that is strictly pre-approved. So that's some of the reasons there. There's some more reasons that go as well too, but I wanted to give you a general overview of why that pre-approval for a mortgage is extremely important. And I can't stress enough, take the time to watch those videos and they'll be able to walk you through, all of those loan types. And most of all, you've got some options there too, where there could be some lenders that do have products that might fit your specific need. All right, so we've got you pre-approved. We've got that pre-approval in hand. We are ready to go. So some questions that I want you to ask yourself and to discuss with, myself is, what are some must-haves? What are the things we have to have, whether or not it be a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 1 bath, 1.5 bath, 2.5 bath, inside of town, outside of town, things like that. What are the things you must have? You got to have that garage. The other one to think about is, what are your wants? So, you might have to have that 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom house, but do you really need that garage? So what are your must-haves and what are your wants? And that's something to discuss with myself because we're going to be able to start that process. And those are the properties that I'm going to go out and find you, that I'm going to send to you, that check, your must-haves and your wants. The next question to ask yourself is, what is your timeline? Are you renting right now? Do you only have 60 days? Do you have 90 days? Are you in a month-to-month lease? Where are you going to live during that process? What is your timeline? Is this, hey, we've got to go right now, or is this a 3 to 6 month process here? Are you not completely set yet? Are you selling your home? Well, if you're selling your home, where are you going to live in the process if we sell your home before we find the next one? So what is your timeline? Another question to ask is, where do you want to live? What areas, do you want to be in Ohio? Do you want to be in West Virginia? Do you want to be in St. Clairsville? Do you want to be in Wheeling? Do you want to be in Weirton? Those are questions, we'll discuss to figure out where we're going to find you the right home that's going to check those boxes for you. So can't stress that part enough. The must-haves, the wants, your timeline, and where do you want to live? Those are the important 4 questions. So I'm going to ask you those questions, and then we're going to hit the ground running, and we're going to find you that home to move you into. So, we found your dream home and we are ready to go. So we're about to make an offer. So yes, there's paperwork involved with it. The great part about that, being your realtor, we're going to have the process to, get everything over to you. I'm going to take care of that. I will be writing the offer up to your specifics after we discuss it, getting you over the property disclosures, getting you all of that information to get your offer written and ready to go. But we've got to ask some questions before we put that offer together. So the first part is, how competitive is the market? Is the market absolutely on fire right now? Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Things we have to ask ourselves. Did the listing that just come on, did it just hit the market today? Or has it been on the market for 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks? Has it been sitting there for a while? Have they price dropped? So we've really got to look at that before we put in that offer. The next thing to think about is, your offer competitive? Did it just hit the market? Has it been on the market for a couple hours and you want to lock this thing up? Do we need to go at it strong? Has it been on the market for a couple weeks and they haven't seen much movement? Can you kind of have a little wiggle room for negotiation? That's something that we'll talk about in the process. Should we use an escalation clause? If you've never heard of an escalation clause, what that is, it's the opportunity for you to put an offer in on the house, but if another offer comes in on the back end, your offer will escalate from, whatever price it is to a higher price that we pre-designate at, $500 to $1,000 above their offer. That way you stay competitive through that process. That's a very important part, especially when you get to the highest and best situations where there might be multiple offers or a bidding war on a house. That's something to take into consideration because, you might not overpay in that situation, because if we utilize that escalation clause, is it going to give you the chance to get your dream home locked up without overpaying significantly? But, if you don't choose to use that, do you want to come in strong and go overprice? There's lots of options that we'll discuss before putting in your offer. Ultimately, it comes up to you and your decision making. I can only advise. I cannot tell you what to offer, but I'll definitely walk you through the process so you fully understand what that offer is and what you're doing and how strong it is before we present that offer to the sellers. The next part is seller concessions. So some areas in the country, they might not have a lot of seller concessions. It's a common thing that we see here in the Ohio Valley. Do you need seller concessions as a part of your offer? Are you doing an FHA loan? Are you doing a USDA loan, a VA loan, conventional loan? You can ask for seller's concessions on those. So that's something you wanted to take into consideration, which could lower, the amount of money out of pocket you have to bring to the table. Do you need that? Do you have to have that? That's something to take into consideration. And the last one that I really want you to think about is, does it fit your budget? I can't stress that enough. I'd love to sell you a home, but I don't want to see you be put in a situation where it's going to put financial strain. So, if we offer X, is it going to hurt you in the long term? That's something to really take into consideration. So making an offer as simple as just filling out paperwork, there's lots of stuff that we have to consider before we pull that trigger. So we've got your house under contract. We are ready to go. So a lot of people confuse the inspection and an appraisal. So you'll see some additional videos on here where it'll walk you through some more information, but at a high level, I'm going to cover the inspection and the appraisal here. So what is an inspection? An inspection is something that is solely for your information as the buyer. It gives you the opportunity to send an expert in there to look through the home and be able to find things that could possibly be wrong with the home that you need repaired, could be a safety issue, things of that nature. When we look at a house, we're not getting on the roof. We're not, going through and checking every single outlet. We're looking for things that are noticeable, but that home inspector is going to go through there with a fine-tooth comb, and they're really going to look at details in that house, and they're going to make sure that what your dream home is matching up to the reality of it. So this is a very important process. Yes, you don't technically have to do one, but I'm saying on the record here right now, strongly, strongly, strongly suggest getting a home inspection. If you're spending $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, hedge your bet with getting a home inspection to make sure what you're paying for is really what you want. And it's going to check all those boxes, and you're not buying a lemon at the end of it. So can't stress that part enough. Oftentimes it's confused with an appraisal. Home inspections aren't pass or fail. Like I said, it is strictly for your information. And then we'll cover the remedy process after the slide. But very important for you if you're buying a home to get a home inspection. I can't stress that enough. The next one is an appraisal. So what's an appraisal? So appraisals are typically ordered from your lender. They're going to be ordered from your lender. They're going to send a licensed home appraiser out to your house, and they're going to look at the house and they're going to determine the value of the home. They're going to say, look at comps in the area, what's going on in the market. They're very appraised to what's going on to a dollar amount, and they're going to assess the value of the home. If you have a government-backed loan, they're going to look at some more things, whether for the FHA, USDA, and VA regulations. They'll go through some more detail. They'll look at some areas to make sure that it checks all the boxes that are required for that loan. And sometimes for a conventional loan, they will call out some things that are safety hazards as well too, but it's not as common. So the home inspection and the appraisal are two different things. The home inspection is for you. It's your information. The appraisal is what the lender ordered, and it's looking at the value of the home and if there are any safety hazards that need to be completed or fixed inside that home. All right, so we got through the inspection. We've done our walkthrough with the inspector, and now we're at the opportunity to negotiate some repairs. So, there's three real options that you've got in the situation. So, you get a home inspection back. It is a total lemon. There are things that we didn't see. There's repairs coming down the line that don't fit your budget. There's just stuff that was not disclosed prior to the home inspection. First thing you could do, you could obviously request a release from the contract. So speaking with me, we'll reach out to their agent. We will request a release based off of your contingency that was built into the contract that we use. So it's going to give you the opportunity to get out of that contract. The next opportunity would be to ask for remedy. So in this situation, the remedy, there's really kind of three areas that they fall. So there are some repairs that need completed. So I will type up an addendum, and we'll go through those repairs, and we will request the seller to fix some things. Not uncommon for this to happen. There's just usually, if it's an FHA, USDA, VA loan, there might be some tiny little things that are missing, a GFCI, stuff like that might need completed. So we'll put it in paper, we'll put it in writing, we'll send it over to them, and we'll ask for those repairs. You can also ask for bigger things, but that's just an example there. If there are bigger things that you do want repaired, that's something we can ask for. Hey, we want this fixed. There's something wrong with the electric box, things like that. We'll discuss that one-on-one, but the opportunity for you to ask for remedy and asking for those repairs to be completed. The next one's concessions. So, you could ask for additional seller concessions because you are going to make the repair yourself. Something along those lines where it's going to save you some money out of pocket. It gives you the opportunity to ask for some seller concessions or changes on that side of it. The next one, you could be asked for a price change. Hey, based off of the home inspection, there's less on the value. We know that there's some stuff coming. You could ask for that price change. That's something they can obviously say no to the question, but it is something that we can do in that process. And the last part, say, hey, we didn't get a lemon. We're happy with the inspection report. We feel comfortable with it. We knew some of those things were going to pop up. You can accept that property in as-is condition. So those are your three options of looking at, kind of the negotiating repairs. So request release, ask for remedy, or accept the property as is. All right, it is closing time. So we've got the appraisal back. It is, the value was good. We are ready to go. We are ready to get you into your dream home. So the next step would be scheduling a closing. So once that's all done, the title agency or the lawyer that's handling the transaction will schedule a closing time with us. They are very important in the process because they're going to issue a title insurance policy. That is extremely important. And if you watch one of my videos below, you'll also be able to see that title insurance policy in the more detail. We'll go into more details about it as well. But they've handled all that stuff. They're extremely important, though, as well, because they make sure the paperwork's done properly, but they hold the funds to make sure that everything is completed and registered and good to go before they release the funds, so no one runs off with anybody's money. Not going to say that's happened, but it's happened before. That's why there's a need for them in this process. They're going to make sure that all the paperwork is done properly. It's filed at the courthouse. It is signed, sealed, and delivered. Keys are in your hand. You own this home, and you are ready to go. So congratulations, you've made it through that process. All right, thanks for watching this video on the home buying process. If you have any questions and want to reach out to me, here's some of my contact information. You can call or text me at my phone number below, 304-615-9430. If you want to email me, my email address is chad.r.wilson@exprealty.com. And if you want to follow me on social media, my YouTube channel is Living in the Ohio Valley, and my Facebook is Chad Wilson Salesperson. So give it a like and follow there. So last but not least, I want to give a shout out to my brokerage at eXp Realty of Ohio and eXp Realty of West Virginia. Like and subscribe this, leave a comment below. Look forward to hearing from everybody, and reach out to me if you have any questions or comments. And have a wonderful day, and let's go find you your forever home.